Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Chicago Bears Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. On today's video, we're going to take a look at 5 trade targets that Ryan Poles could take a swing at before the NFL season starts. Now, I think coming out of the draft, coming out of rookie minicamp, these are the biggest needs for the Bears, in my opinion. I still think the top 2 are the same, although they might be done at receiver after adding Dante, Pettis, and Tajae Sharpe. We'll see. Could depend on how guys perform this offseason at OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Obviously, offensive line, I still think left tackle, right guard's a big spot. Linebacker, you could add another guy there. Defensive tackle, you could add a piece or two, and then can't ever have enough edge rushers. So those are my 5 biggest needs for the Bears moving on toward training camp. Okay, what's your biggest need for the Bears? One positional need that stands out compared to every other position. If you had to pick one spot, what is the Bears' biggest need? Okay, let's get to my 5 trade targets for the Chicago Bears. We'll focus on the top 2 needs in today's video. Laviska Shenault Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who he was rumored to be available during the NFL draft and after the first wave of free agency when Jacksonville went out and signed Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Through 2 seasons, Shenault's been pretty decent, over 1,200 yards and 5 touchdowns playing for the garbage Jags. When he was coming out of college, quite frankly, his player comp was kind of similar to what we're hoping Velus Jones is, although Jones has more speed. This Bears offense could get really creative if they had Shenault in addition to Velus Jones. Shenault can line up in the backfield. He can be a returner. He can be a receiver. He can do a little bit of everything, makes guys miss in space. He'll run you over. He's a fun, creative player. Now, he's had some injury issues in the past, especially in college, but if the Jags are open to moving on from him, I like Shenault. I think there's untapped potential there, and I think if the Bears are going to be this creative offense that we think they could be, I could be a fun little piece to add to this nucleus. If the Bears make a trade, we'll break it down. That's a reason to subscribe right now here on the channel, youtube.com/BearsNow. Hit that big red subscribe button, and we'll have you guys covered with more Bears news and rumors videos, but especially if the Bears make a trade, trust me, we'll break it down. All right, trade target number 2. We've talked about Andre Dillard before from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's kind of their third offensive tackle, stuck behind a couple of quality starters there in Philly, and has played primarily left tackle when he has played. And, hey, Bears could use a left tackle. Now, is it possible Larry Borum's better than Andre Dillard? I guess it's possible. We haven't seen Borum play left tackle hardly at all in the NFL, whereas Dillard has played at least decently when he has played. But when I look at this Bears offensive line, I still look at left tackle and right guard as like, well, I don't know what we're going to get out of those 2 positions because I think it's very much up in the air. I think those are question marks. And if, maybe Larry Borum's the guy. Maybe Sam Mustipher, Dakota Dozier, or one of these rookies is the guy at right guard. I'm not convinced of that, but I could be wrong. You drafted 4 rookies on day 3 for a reason. Maybe 1 or 2 of them emerge as starters. Who knows? I'd feel better if they went out and got somebody. I'm not saying Andre Dillard is, a superstar, but he's played above average when he's gotten to play, and 340 snaps last year for the Eagles, primarily at left tackle. Overall, just under 70. That's a tick above average based on their grading system, only gave up 1 sack. He's pretty solid when he's gotten to play. Plus, assistant GM Ian Cunningham should know about Andre Dillard. He was in the Philadelphia Eagles front office. So if you want a solid player who's played well when had opportunities, I kind of view him as like Ryan Bates when the Bears were trying to get him from Buffalo. Hasn't always played, doesn't have a ton of experience, but when he has played, he's played pretty well. Now, sometimes guys play good in a pinch, and then you try to play them as a full-time starter, and they're not nearly as effective. Maybe that could be true with Dillard. But we know for a fact that certain guys who have gotten to play aren't exactly the answer. Dakota Dozier is not an answer for an offensive line, in my opinion. We'll get to some more trade targets in a moment, but YouTube launched a new feature, and I know a lot of you guys are watching this show live, but if you're watching this on Wednesday or later, you can actually super thanks on the show. Super chatting is a popular feature on live shows, so YouTube added it to their videos on demand, which is just our standard daily videos that we publish. If you see on the photo the 5th icon there after like, dislike, share, download, then it's super thanks. It's a heart. You click on that and you can donate / send in whatever message you want. $1 up to $100. You can ask me a question, whatever. It'll pop up in the comments, and we'll shout you guys out. So if you want a shout-out, send us a super thanks on a video, and we'll shout you guys out in a future show. We appreciate all the support. Obviously, super thanks is not a requirement. We don't expect all you guys to be able to do that. But just know, if you send in a super thanks, we feel the love, we feel the support, and it helps us grow and add more resources to Bears Now, because we have a lot of channels at Chat Sports. Bears Now is one of our bigger ones, but if we want to continue to grow, every little bit helps, so we greatly appreciate it. Let's do another receiver here, Andy Isabella, who might be a name you've forgotten about. He was I think fourth round pick a few years ago in 2019. Really speedy guy, ran a really good 40 out of UMass, and he caught people off guard as he moved up draft boards. Now, a pre-draft report came out saying that Isabella was available via trade, and I assume that's still the case because the Cardinals did go out and trade for Marquise Brown to add to that offense, so I don't really know where Andy Isabella fits. I'll be honest, he's been kind of underwhelming through 3 seasons. He's only played in 36 games, has less than 500 yards, just 3 touchdowns, has showed some explosion when he's gotten opportunities, but not in a lot of opportunities have come. He's been used as a return man as well, so you'd have that addition, but the Bears do have a lot of options as a punt and or kick returner. What I would say to this is, sure, you could trade for him, throw a late pick. He might also get cut. And if he gets cut, then you could just sign him outright. Obviously, the difference there is you would have to compete with other teams, potentially claim him off the waiver wire, so keep that in mind. But Andy Isabella, before the draft was made available, according to reports, I'm going to assume that's still the case at this point in time. One more receiver, Jalen Reagor. We've talked about him before as well, out of Philadelphia. Like Isabella, he was reportedly made or put on the trade block before the draft. At least according to reports, some rumors that he was on the trade block. And, you know, it hasn't gone to plan for Jalen Reagor, first-round pick out of my alma mater, TCU. So I'm a little biased here. I like Jalen Reagor, but it just hasn't worked in the NFL. I thought he showed some promise as a rookie in just 11 games, battled some injuries, but showed some explosion at 13 yards a catch, had 31 grabs for almost 400 yards in limited playing time. But then last year, lots of drops, muffed multiple punts, seemed to lose his confidence. That fan base, which can be tough at times, got after him in Philly as well. The explosive plays disappeared at only 9 yards a catch there. Did have 2 touchdowns, but just wasn't the same guy. Instead of ascending, he descended in year 2, and that's something you don't want to see. But, again, I'll say this with all these receivers we're talking about. You look at the depth chart. Think about this. You know Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle are going to be on the team, as is Velus Jones. After that, what do we really know? I think St. Brown will be on the team with a Getsy connection and his size and frame. Very unproven over 4 or 5 NFL seasons. Daz Newsome, we don't know if he's bringing anything to the table. David Moore hasn't done much in the last couple of years. Tajae Sharpe's a journeyman. Dante Pettis is a bust. Like, you hope a couple of these guys emerge, but Jalen Reagor was a first-round pick 2 years ago. Like, you can't tell me he can't give you more than David Moore. Like, I don't know. Like, I get that he's been bad. I think with a fresh start, that could benefit him. I'm certainly biased. I will flatly admit that, but you're telling me he's not worth a 7th-round pick, a 6th-round pick? Hell, trade a 5th. They send you a 6th and Reagor back. Who says no? Like, you can't tell me he can't be a number 5 receiver for a team and maybe show more because, again, we've seen some flashes, but he's in that bust category right now. He has not been good up to this point in his career. It's up to him to change that narrative, but maybe a fresh change of scenery, which we see in sports, could help him reach his potential. So pick a receiver. We've talked about 3 of them. I'm not crazy biased. I would pick Shenault over the other 2, but let me know which you would pick. Type LS for Laviska Shenault, type AI, not for Allen Iverson, for Andy Isabella, or type JR for Jalen Reagor. I would rank him Shenault, Reagor, then Isabella. Let me know which one you would pick down in the comments. All right, let's go back to offensive line here. I'm going to focus on the 2 key positions. Like I said, that is Liam Eichenberg, who I liked him coming out of college at Notre Dame. Kind of struggled as a rookie last year for Miami, if I'm being honest. I think he started 16 of 17 games at left tackle. PFF graded him like in the 50s. He wasn't that good. But, you know, potential 2nd-round pick, I believe he was. You know, he could be a guy you bring in for competition at tackle or guard because that is something draft experts said in that pre-2021 draft is that he's got that positional flexibility. He could play tackle or guard for you. So maybe he's a guy you bring in for a late-round pick, and you let him compete with some of these other rookies, and maybe he earns a starting job because he's got that potential. He was on many mock drafts a first-round guy for the 2021 draft. I think he went in the second round, but did not look great as a rookie, so keep that in mind. So there you go. My trade targets, some kind of under-the-radar guys to keep in mind as the 2022 NFL season is closer and closer by the day. We're already almost in June. Laviska Shenault, Dillard, Andy Isabella, Jalen Reagor, and Liam Eichenberg. Those are my trade targets for the Bears. Now name a player that you think the Bears should trade for. You're in charge. You're Ryan Poles. Who would you go out and trade for if you can get him? Let us know in the comments of this video. Appreciate you guys for subscribing to the channel. We'll have videos every single day here on YouTube, youtube.com/BearsNow. Let's continue to grow. We're closing in on 50,000 subs. Let's get there ASAP. Go ahead and subscribe today.